Where do we begin to tell the story of the Jewish people? Well, according to the Old Testament, it begins with Abraham and Sarah when they arrive in Canaan. The happy couple settle down, and shortly thereafter the full and diverse spectrum of Jewish tribes are born, setting the stage for the biblical Jewish story. So there are many Jewish tribes with varied customs, but they all believe in one uniting God, more or less. But then, a harsh drought destroys the land and the grass suddenly appears to be greener on the southern side, even though the southern side was actually a desert. Seeking a better future, the Jews move to Egypt, where they become slaves. Big mistake. For a long period of time, the Jews slave away in Egypt. Except for one guy who pretends to work but spends all his time online. Until Moses arrived. The prophet Moses leads the Israelites through the desert for 40 years. Well, ways was yet to be invented. Canaan is conquered, and the kingdom of David is established. The kingdom grows and changes shape and meaning. It gains prestige, power, and influence, and is admired by people all around the world. Well, except for the Hittites and Jebusites. Oh, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Girgashites. After David comes King Solomon, and the peak of the Jewish kingdom with the building of the holy First Temple in Jerusalem. The 12 tribes find peace, each in their own territory. But peace in the Jewish story never lasts long, and the briefly united kingdom of Israel is once again split between the tribes, forming the Kingdom of Israel and the Kingdom of Judea. After the exile of the 10 lost tribes, the First Temple in Jerusalem is destroyed, and the Judah and Benjamin tribes are exiled to Babylon. When they finally manage to find their way back to Israel, they have to start all over again. The Second Temple is built, and years later, the Hasmonean dynasty begins. Since we have no historical photographs of Hasmoneans, here is an illustration of a young Hasmonite. Shortly after, Jesus is born in Bethlehem, but that's a whole other story. Then the temple is destroyed again. And once again, Jews are scattered. At this time, we have 3 major centers: Israel, Alexandria, and Babylon. And they continue to divide and migrate, eventually establishing the modern formula where 2 Jews equals 3 opinions. In fact, until today, Jews continue to divide and migrate on an hourly basis, and mostly on weekends. Lacking a physical center for their spiritual activity, they turn to texts and their interpretations. The Jerusalem and Babylonian Talmuds grow in complexity. The Gaonim, the Rishonim, the Achronim. Each generation of Jewish thinkers adds a layer to the flourishing Jewish culture and another conflicting voice to the everlasting debate. The Jewish bookshelf is filled with interpretations of interpretations. Another 6 or 7 centuries fly by, and now the Jewish culture is established in 2 main centers of thought and education: Sfarad, or Spain, and Ashkenaz, today's Germany and Northern Europe. The Jews of Spain prosper, reaching their golden age with an abundance of Jewish wisdom and scholarship that inspires the world around them. But in every golden era, there will be those who are spiteful and consumed with hatred, which explains why the Jews were banished from Spain. And for the sake of national balance, the Ashkenazi Jews are expelled as well. History continues to repeat itself, but in an exponentially increasing rate. Again, the Jews prosper in the Ottoman Empire, in Eastern Europe, in Poland and Lithuania. In Western Europe, they are at the forefront of the Enlightenment. For the first time in a while, they are given equal rights, and they make the most of them. And once again, there are those who don't like it. The European powers expand into colonies where Jews of the West meet the Jews of the East in what will become a wonderful reunion. During the same period, Jews from all over the world sail to the New World, once again in search of greener grass. But meanwhile in Europe, a new brand of anti-Semitism rises. The same ancient hatred, now backed up with pseudoscience, grows to monstrous proportions and gives birth to the Holocaust. After the calamity, the surviving Jewish refugees are spread around the world. A large and influential portion of them settle in the United States, and others in Europe, South America, Australia, New Zealand. Some even end up in China. The growing awareness of the danger faced by post-Holocaust Jews, along with the insights of the Zionist movement, lead to the establishment of the State of Israel. That brings us to today, when the two largest Jewish centers are in Israel and North America, with many Jews flourishing in other parts of the world as well. And the story continues.